Good morning, all, or good afternoon, or good evening when you're listening to all this. This is week 5, believe it or not, of the semester. So I hope you're all doing well. Just a reminder to really keep track of the due dates for things. The elected official address was due. So if anybody has any trouble with the assignments or any unusual circumstances, please email me or call me, and we will discuss about an extension. But at this point, I don't like to give too many extensions because I don't want you to get very far behind. Okay? So, but if you're on campus, please stop in. I would love, love, love to meet some of you whom I've never seen before. So anyway, this unit is going to be on the family. This part 1 is just some general information about family. I find that when we work with individuals in childcare, social work, whatever your profession, your degree is in, it helps to kind of analyze yourself a little bit, okay, in your family so that you kind of know what your stuff is. So when you're working with other individuals. So this part 1 will be a little bit about family, some of the dynamics. Part 2 will be what I call the ecological theory for social work, and it's a way of analyzing individuals. Those of you that have taken my social work classes will have seen this before, and it will be a little review. So this first slide talks about the impact, and what it says is the impact of social change. It has some statistics. 1960, this is no surprise, it was about 92% two-parent families and 8% one-parent families. As of 2000, there were 73% two-parent families and 27% one-parent families. I do not have the statistics, the very recent ones, but they're very, very similar. So as you can see, the needs of families are changing, and also more families are working in today's. And these are just some other statistics. Again, depending on the day and time you do statistics, they change. But approximately 28% of children live with one parent. 80% are headed by women. And if you're a single parent, it increases a woman's risk of poverty. Most of the statistics are done on women, and that is not to ignore males, but usually in the majority of cases, the woman, if it's a single parent, it's a single woman with the child. Okay, but I would say, single parenthood would increase anybody's risk of poverty, because of only one income. And poverty raises the odds that a single woman will become a single mother. Again, those are statistics that they've done the research on, but there's a lot more, I'm sure, current research also on fathers. And growing up in a one-parent family has many disadvantages for children. Okay, think about, you don't have as much attention. You only have one income. However, I know many single parent families who are very healthy and making it because they're determined, they're resourceful, and they look for lots of resources in the community. So it doesn't mean, poverty does raise the odds that a woman will become a single mother, but it doesn't necessarily always happen. It just there's more of a risk factor there. That's what that means. So families, a group of people who live together, have regular contact, and who are expected to perform specific functions. Okay, that's kind of a generic definition of family. So in New York State, there's a legal court definition of family: two people who are married, persons who are related by blood, and persons who have had children together. Okay, so This is the legal definition, all right, not the sociological definition. That's a little bit different. But when you go to court, if you're going to court for custody, okay, this is what the court will look like, who will define family. So as we just said, the legal definition is bound together by the legal structure, but you can have a perception. Who do you view others as your biological family? So maybe you have a long-term friend that you view as family, which is perfectly acceptable, except for if you have to have any court dealing. So you can define family however you want. Sometimes people define them if they have somebody they know of long-term commitments. So some of the parts of a family, I call them, social work calls them subsystems, units that perform specific tasks and contribute to the whole. So think about, children in a family. Think about your family. Think about your children. Think about when you were growing up, okay? Children, families that you're dealing with that would be, have child abuse and maltreatment issues. Sometimes the children are what we call parentified, okay? So for example, a 10-year-old comes home every day and has to cook dinner, okay? So if you were working with a family like that, you might have to help them be able to figure out how can the child have a particular childhood, okay? So watching out for what roles and tasks children perform in a family is very important for you to figure out, is the child having a healthy childhood? So some of the parental functions, okay, are, assignment of social roles. So teaching their child how to be social, getting them integrated into classrooms, into society. Economic production and consumption. So it's the role of the parent or guardian, depending on who the child lives with, to be able to provide some economic stability, and consumption. Teaching the child what the parents can and cannot afford, and teaching them kind of the value of that. Emotional support, obviously, and a lot of times in child abuse and neglect, children do not get the correct emotional support they need, and often that's because parents do not have the resources to be able to pay that attention to the child. Maybe they're working, 70 hours a week, and during this pandemic, it's been very, very difficult too. Maybe parents have had 2 or 3 children home on the computer, and they're just, running ragged trying to get the academics done. And then also providing socialization, making sure the children have friends, maybe taking them to, childcare, school, making sure they're not being bullied, and that kind of thing. And so these are traits of a healthy relationship. Okay, so this is a kind of a nice chart, maybe if you are working with parents, to discuss what is communication like in their family. Okay, think about what communication was like in your family growing up, or maybe what is it like now. Trust. Sometimes parents, they don't trust their children, so they're over controlling. So you might have to have discussions or techniques with parents, what's appropriate at what age. For example, teenagers, as children get older and grow into the teen and tween years, they want to have more control over their lives. So what does that look like at various ages for the children? Okay. Equality. Really the term today is equity. Okay. Not giving everybody, equity is not giving everybody the same thing and resources, but what do children need? For example, what do children need to be equitable to their peers in school that maybe have had more resources than we do? So equality is everybody getting the same thing, but equity is really the better term, okay? Providing the resources. So ask yourself, do you know resources in the community? Or do you know where to call to get those resources? Okay, respect, respecting the parent, respecting the different ages and stages of the child, and the child respecting the parent, okay? But the child has to earn that parent's respect and trust because the parents have done something to prove themselves trustworthy. And again, freedom, I kind of mentioned this when I mentioned trust, but, to let the child develop into their own self. And you have to have a parent that has really worked on their own self. And sometimes when parents are abusing, emotionally or physically abusing their children, they're frustrated with themselves. And by the way, if I haven't said this before, mostly parents, don't abuse and neglect their children because they enjoy it. Most of the time, that they don't know how to discipline their children or relate to their children, or to give their children, freedom. Sometimes they're afraid if they let too much control, they'll be out of control. So, this is only brief explanation, but there's a lot more deeper explanation. But these generally are traits of a healthy relationship. So the family is a system, okay? The roles contribute to how we see ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, and again, children have to be taught at each stage of their lives, and how do others see us? How do others see us? Okay, so to make sure the child has good social relationships and looking at how a family functions, okay? Again, what are the roles? What are the subsystems? So you may have to unpack some of that to get to underneath what is the cause. Why is the parent or parents abusing or neglecting their children? Or maybe it's not the parent or parents, but usually it's somebody that the family knows. So is it because the parent isn't paying enough attention to the child? So they're letting the child go with somebody they don't know too well. So again, unpacking the family as a system is really key in figuring out the solutions to the child abuse and neglect. And then communication patterns contribute to the regulation of subsystems. Okay, so in other words, communication patterns, how does the family function? Okay, what roles are assigned? Are they the appropriate roles? And rules, repetitive patterns of interaction that family members develop with each other. So are they reasonable rules? Are they rules that are compatible with the ages and stages of each child? So think about the rules you had in your family, okay? What were some of the healthy rules? Did you keep them as adults? Did you change them as you had children? Okay. And rules need to be, think about some brainstorms of descriptors for rules. Consistent, okay, oftentimes in families that there's child abuse and neglect, the rules are not consistent, okay? They're just, so the child doesn't know exactly what to do, okay? And then they need to be reasonable too, reasonable. So think about what rules are in your family and think about and again, rules are a way of acting. Rules are your GPS, your navigation system. So, children really need these rules to be comfortable, okay, to figure out what am I supposed to do in different situations. And then communication in today's world, as we know, is a little more challenging. Do you family counseling center, this is a cartoon, do you ever communicate as a family by just speaking? So it is a little more challenging, okay, to teach the child when is the appropriate time, to discuss issues. How do you discuss issues? Sometimes in families where there's child abuse and neglect, there is not an open system of communication. So what is an open system and a healthy open system of communication for children? Rituals, repetitive behaviors that might be a vital part of communication. Okay, the cartoon, how was your day? It's on Facebook, dude, or Twitter, or tutor, whatever has been invented in the last 4 seconds. So, repetitive behaviors, rituals, for example, how do they celebrate holidays? Does the child know that they're going to have a birthday celebration? Okay, that's all part of um, making children feel secure. I have cousins, and for her children, every year, they've done this every year since they went to school, they each get a back to school cake. So there's 3 of them, okay? There's twins and then another teenager. Now they are now 18 and the twins are 14. They still do it. They love that tradition. It makes school special. So what rituals do people have to make children feel special? So that was kind of a very quick glance at different family systems, and we're going to get into it a little more in the ecological approach. And then, in the subsequent videos and chapters, you've already read the first couple of chapters on child abuse and neglect, okay? And the journals I've read so far have been very, very good, but don't forget to get those in on time too, okay? Have a great rest of the day. Today is sunny for us here in Albany, so maybe it will be for when you listen to it too. Okay, so this is part 1, and there will be a part 2 coming.